Welcome everybody, and welcome to the replay. If you're here watching the replay with us, welcome to and thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us today. I hope that the Dean and I earlier were just talking a little bit about the weather and a little bit about the insanity of winter in our respective areas. And I'm in southern Vermont, and it's a little bit more intense than what I'm hearing about in Denver.
Yeah, for sure. You guys get it down there, up there for sure.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, it's wild, but it's been fun. We finally got our first snow last night, and so we've got a 2.5-year-old that was jumping around, and like, I love snow. So it's not
living in
exactly.
Vermont, that's a good thing, right?
That's it. It's not all bad, you just got to look for the good in it. But all right, so we are live streaming on Facebook. We are being recorded here on the web. So thank you again for joining us. If you're watching the replay, thanks for joining us on the replay. Thanks for being here live. If you're here live, we got some pretty good interest in this one. So I think it should be a cool discussion. Once again, today's discussion is about the question of, are we going into a recession? And Dean and I, during our prep session for this, our collective response was, who cares? Right? I mean, we still have to keep going, right? We still have to keep moving forward. So we started talking about 15 different ideas to keep your business going regardless of the economy. Right, because again, there are the people that aren't going to make it, or the people that decide that they can't make it, and so we're able to keep things moving, and we've got some ideas for you to help you keep moving forward. So, my name is Ian Campbell, and I'm the CEO of Mission Suite. And joining me again with me today here, as always, is Dean Isaacs, and Dean is a serial entrepreneur, and he is the founder of the Vantage Group, which is a business growth and strategy firm. He works with B2B companies, helping them grow predictable, profitable revenue and scale their organizations. And Dean's been doing this for a long time, and so he knows his stuff. And in 2018, he launched the Growth Collaborative, which is a group consulting and mastermind program. It helps B2B consultants and different experts break through their revenue ceilings and generate high-ticket clients month after month. So we're going to get a lot out of today's session. I'm really looking forward to it. Again, just a couple of housekeeping items. And if you've been with us before, I'm sure you've heard all of this, but obviously we're going to take questions throughout the session today. And more often than not, a lot of times I'll say, oh, we're going to open it up to Q&A at the end. There is no end, right? I mean, by the time we get to the end of the hour, we're still right? Talking. Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. So if you have questions, do me a favor, just use the Q&A feature on Zoom. And don't put them in the comments, just hit that Q&A button so that Dean and I can kind of keep that straight a little bit. That'll be helpful for us. And so yeah, jumping in here. I know that, of course, the title of this is a bit flip, kind of with the who cares, but, a lot of people are concerned about where the economy is heading. And, there are a lot of people who are wondering how they can keep things moving. And there's a lot of talk of this, the R word, right? The recession. And it's definitely scary. And I definitely understand that, because any uncertainty in business can make you question how you're going to get to the other side of it. Right.
Yep.
And fortunately, we've, like I said, it's been, it's interesting being in marketing, and Dean and I have talked about this a couple of times, because you're always the first one to get cut and the last one to be brought back on when you're in the marketing world serving clients. And I'm a big believer that should be completely the opposite, right? That we should be the last thing to get cut when things get bad, because there's a lot of things that you can still work on to keep your business growing. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Exactly. Yep.
So Dean, before we jump in, so we have a list of 15 things we're going to start talking about, but before we jump in, anything that you want to add to this before we start going down the list?
No, I mean, really, for me, the thing about recession, we've all been through this cycle before, some more than once, right? And 2008, a lot of people will remember that, as do I, and I know you do too. And changes in the economy, changes in the business cycle are always scary, right? Even on the upswing, right? It's like, how do we handle all this business and what are we trying to hire and all of these things? Change is always difficult. It just is. It's right. It's human nature. We push back against change. So a lot of the things that we're talking about today are really appropriate for an economy that's slowing down, right? And the things, how we typically react to that. But you can apply these rules to any change in the economy. I believe that when an economy changes, the business cycle changes, it creates opportunity. If you're out there looking for opportunity. So while we're focusing this around sort of this recessionary cycle, take these lessons anytime you want to create change in your business, apply some of these lessons.
Right. Absolutely. And it's important to remember that even during a recession, you know, we end up seeing growth, right? At the end of the day. It's not what we expected it to be, and sometimes we have to make changes as a result of that. But I mean, there's still some growth from where we were 2 years before, or whatever. So you know, it is something that's important to think about. So, so let's jump in here. And Dean, you can take the first one. I know I kind of alluded to it before, but that first one is just keep marketing.
Yeah. And maybe we should have said keep marketing and selling, right? I mean, keep generating revenue. But you're right. I think that business owners tend to cut expenses, especially when they have a hard time connecting that expense to a return on investment. And in marketing today, you should never spend money on things you can't measure. And the good thing is you can measure everything. You should be able to attribute all marketing dollars spent to revenue coming in or not, right? You should be able to connect those dots. And I think that's one of the reasons business owners cut marketing. Like, it's kind of, we have to do it. It's an expense. And so it's easy to cut because I don't know I'm getting benefit from it. Right. So there are two things there, right? One is maybe you're not doing the right marketing in the first place, or you're not tracking the right metrics. And secondly, you could be the first one to say, well, shoot, we're not selling enough. Our salespeople don't have leads and have anybody to talk to. Well, if you cut your marketing and your marketing was producing prospects and leads, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I would say, don't cut marketing, analyze your marketing. Take a strong look at what you're doing, look at your returns, understand what is generating results. And if you're doing things that weren't producing results, cut those. That's okay, right? It's okay to get focused, get skinny, if you will. But to just cut your marketing activity right now, you will become one of the statistics down the road. No question about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What do you have to add to that, Ian?
You know, I think it's dead on, because again, nobody can buy from you if they don't know you're around, right? And anytime that we go through a recession, I can't count the number of times that I've heard. So I've been through two recessions: 2001, kind of the dot-com burst, and then well, the big part of it was the Enron and the Tyco and all those, those things happening that kind of led to a bunch of chaos in the marketplace that led to that led to a pretty decent recession after that. But then and again in 2008, right? And so I remember, I can't count the number of times that I would hear somebody say, "Oh, you're still around. That's awesome. That's great."
Yeah.
And be like, "Yeah, I'm still around." Like, how, what kind of a thing is that? Well, we didn't see anything from you. We didn't hear anything from you, right? And so if people don't know that you're there, there's no chance that they're going to buy from you. There's no chance that, so now all of a sudden you're relegated to just your clients or just your customers, because the people outside of that don't know that you exist.
Yep.
But if they start needing to make cuts, if they start going out of business, or if something happens there, then all of a sudden you end up on the bottom of the slide, right? And so, it's so that point of keep marketing and keep selling, for that matter, definitely get skinny, find the things that aren't working and really evaluate that, but don't just stop marketing because you don't know where things are going, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other thing, you were saying, like, stay top of mind is really what you were saying there, right? Keep that awareness going. It's an opportunity also to really think about your ideal client, that profile, that person, that business, and what are the struggles that they're dealing with? Because everybody deals with struggles slightly differently in different kinds of recessions, right? Depends on where you're at in the supply chain and what you do and who you do it with and who their clients are. But what we all know is that we need to keep our revenue moving forward. And so if it's an opportunity for you to refresh your messaging for your market, because your market is looking for new solutions in this changing environment. Be that new solution. Right. To say the same old crap you said in 2008 and now it's 2023, guess what? You're not going to be seen as unique, different, or special. So it's an opportunity for you to update your position, your message, your value based on what the current needs of your market are. Right. Forget what you did this year. Forget what you did last year and the year before that. COVID, thankfully, is somewhat of a distant memory now, right? Did change business. It definitely changed the environment, but look forward, have a forward thinking message. So don't just keep marketing. Don't just keep selling. Update your stuff, update your position, message, and even your offer as well.
Yeah, definitely. So the next thing we had here was use email better.
Yeah.
Right. Talk about staying top of mind. Email is something that people have talked a lot about. We've heard over and over and over again that email's dead. Email's dead. Social is everything now, or email is dead and social is dead. Now text messages are the hot thing, or now those are dead too, and now we're whatever. And at the end of the day, tools don't die, right? I mean, they don't go away. You just have to use them more effectively. And email, especially when you're in a position where you need to tighten belts at all, email is a massively powerful tool, right? Because you don't have to pay 19 seconds or your text message rates apply rate, whatever that, whatever, right? You don't have to pay extra for it. You get an email list, you own your list, and then you get to utilize that through a marketing system, through a platform, right? I mean, if you absolutely have to use something for free, you can even find something that's going to work there too. Yeah. But really using email more effectively as a way to not just remind people that you're there, but of course, the top of mind thing is definitely really valuable, but also to let people know the different things that you have going on, right? I mean, when you're marketing, when you're doing your branding exercises and all the things that we talked about in the keep marketing section here, all that stuff has to get out there. Otherwise it's not going to be effective, right? Right. And email is a really, really effective way to do that. And you can create a email series, you can create campaigns, you can create just general touch points there's a 75-week Seinfeld series that I was turned on to by some, I don't know, somebody selling something, I'm sure, but whoever it was. But basically it was 75 emails about nothing that went out once a week. Just kind of check-in emails that are just like, hey, did you see this? Or did you hear about that? Or here's a hey, I listened to this new song the other day, thought it was really cool, wanted to share it, right? I don't know if this is your kind of music, but take a listen. Those types of things that just keep you engaged with people that you're doing business with, whether it's prospects, clients, random people that just got in your list somehow. But use email more effectively. Spend time really focusing in on doing things, quote, that don't scale, right? Yeah. Reach out to people and say, hey, listen, I got this thing, I think you might be interested in it. Can I send it to you in an email, right? We just finished a PDF, like an ebook. You're interested in taking a look at it, love to shoot it to you in an email, right? Collect their email address and then ask them if you can shoot them off a couple other things. Yeah. But figure out ways that you can use email more effectively, because again, it's still 42 to 1, or maybe down. Even if it's down to 38 to 1, right? Let's go even more conservative than that. Then it's still huge.
Oh yeah, it's still one of the lowest cost, highest return tools you can use, because everybody has it. There's no question. Everybody's in their email. Yep. Some people are buried more than others, but everything you said is right on in. I would add one thing. How can you use the tool to stand out, to offer more value, right? Just sending the 2,000 word email newsletter weekly is probably not going to move the dial for you.
Right.
Maybe you can send 3 sentences that have a huge impact. The likelihood of somebody opening and reading that goes up. So I'm actually going to be launching a quiz that I'm going to be using email to promote here. It's called the Revenue Roadblocks Quiz. It's going to be happening hopefully in December. We'll get it out there. You'll get a scorecard. You get some tips and tricks, all this fun stuff. But email is one of the 2 major platforms or channels I'm going to use to promote it. Right. And it's going to get people on my list. We're going to be able to interact. They're going to get tons of value. They're going to get some offers. It doesn't really cost me anything. Right. I already have the platform to send it out on, but I'm trying to use the channel to give even more value. They always say, give your best stuff away for free. Right. Meaning give your highest quality information away for free, because that's how you build trust, expertise in the marketplace. Do that. Don't be afraid that you're giving away free stuff that you should be getting paid for. The money will come. Right. So what is your best stuff? Use your email to give that away.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge point too, because unless you're like a Gartner, which, that's literally getting paid to collect data, interpret those data, and then disperse the interpretation. People are paying you to do the work that goes along with being able to understand that information, right? And that's and so giving you that best stuff away for free. There are not enough smart people that know what you know and can tell the same story or do the same work that you do based on the information that you're giving them, that it's going to make it that you're going to lose enough clients or that you're going to lose enough revenue. Because guess what? The people that are finding that are looking for that and interpreting that way anyway, they're not paying you to do it. They're going to do it themselves.
They're not going to buy it anyway, right?
Exactly,
they're right. Everything anyway. So
exactly. All right. So next thing is using paid social.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunities with social media. We know that, right? We've done episodes on social selling and all of that good stuff, LinkedIn and stuff like that. But we haven't spent a lot of time on paid social. So paid social is running ads of some kind on a social media platform, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, that kind of stuff, right? That's what paid social is. You're paying to get eyeballs on your content. That's the goal here. So there are a couple of things that you can think about, especially during this sort of economic cycle with paid social. We've already talked about testing your messaging, saying new stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, you can put it out organically and see if you get a response, but it just takes time. You don't get a lot of visibility. You don't get a lot of instant sort of data. The beautiful thing about using paid advertising, paid social, is that you can run an ad with messaging and immediately get feedback. Do people click on the ad? Are they clicking through? Are you generating leads? So you can test messaging really quickly for a particular audience using paid social. Mm-hmm. So I would say if this is of interest, think through the platform first. Right. Where are your prospects hanging out? Are they on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on wherever? And be really, really clear about the platform first, and then learn about the paid opportunities on that platform, because some of them are a little different. They're not all the same. LinkedIn is very different to like Facebook or the meta world, right? So I would say use it to get eyeballs, use it to drive connections and so forth, and test messaging. That's my advice to get started. What do you think?
Another thing that I would add to that is use it to help you define your audience, right? Yeah. Because ultimately, even if right now you can't do a full on, $2,000, $3,000, $10,000, whatever a month advertising campaign, spend $5 a day, spend $2 a day, spend $1 a day, something, right? But put up some video, I'm a musician and I know that people have heard me talk about this a bunch of times, right? I'm looking to build an audience because I'm going to record and all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. And so I posted up a couple 1-minute long videos on Facebook and Instagram and whatever as advertisements, and have been driving traffic to it. And I'm getting people watching. I've gotten I think in the past 3 days, something like that, I've gotten 3,000 people watching 50% of it. And
That's
now,
awesome.
and now all of a sudden, I know that I have a group of people, this 50% audience that I can leverage to not only create a lookalike off of, so that my advertising in the future is even more effective, right? My cold advertising is even more effective, but now I also have a group of people that I can retarget, right?
Yeah.
On the mission suite side of things, I mean that was my big win over the course of the past week, right? That because I mean I'm getting like penny 15-second plays. I'm like, this is amazing, right? But you can get those kind of results for that and have it done that inexpensively, right?
Sure.
So and you can use it to define your audience. On the mission suite side of things, I'm doing the same thing on YouTube, right? And considering YouTube as a paid social channel at this point. But through Google Ads, I've been spending money to drive traffic to this one specific video of what should you look for in a CRM kind of a thing. And now I've got a bunch of people. I've got like 500 something people again over the past 3 or 4 days that are interested in that I now know that are looking for a CRM. So being able to use that information more intelligently and figure out who that audience is from a baseline point. Now, you're not getting names and email addresses and phone numbers, of course. I get that. And that's, and it becomes challenging to spend the money when you're not getting the actual information. But if you can wrap your mind around how to use the data that you are getting,
Yeah.
then you have the opportunity to use them to catapult you forward.
Totally. Yeah. Profiling your audience and then testing the messaging, right? Those are the
Right.
two things you do quickly. And while you're maybe not building your email list, that's the next step, right? Now you know your message, you know your audience, you know you're going to get a reaction, a response, drive them to a landing page for a download or a free whatever, and you can build your list that way. But it can literally be just a few dollars a day. It doesn't have to be thousands and thousands of dollars. I've done the same. I boosted some posts on Instagram just for grins, right? Just to see if I could get some downloads. I got responses. I got follows. So paid social, I think, it's people overestimate what you should spend or what you have to spend to get usable information. I think it's a huge
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be as hard as we all think of it as being, right? Yes, they have made a lot of changes to the ad platform, but it doesn't. But diving into it and kind of getting to understand it doesn't have to be that super crazy difficult either. So spend some time in there because it can be worth it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So the next thing, and this is one of yours. I see just by the language. Evaluate your pricing.
Right. So this is one that came up a few times. I actually was on another event last week, and I asked the audience, by a show of hands, how many of you have updated your pricing in the last 12 months? And not one person raised their hand.
Right.
Not one. So I say, well, even if you had in the last 12 months, you're probably 6 months late anyway. So here's the opportunity for you. First of all, regardless of the economic cycles, people still spend money, right? Yep. If you haven't updated your pricing in the last 12 or 24 months, you're definitely undercharging for your services. And you're also training your clients that you don't increase value over time. You almost have to increase your prices regularly enough with clients where they get used to the price increase, as long as you continue to add value over time as well. Mm-hmm. Most professional services firms that we talk to, they always give more. They deliver more value than they even promised at the beginning. More meetings, more this, more that, whatever it is. And we don't do a good enough job reminding our clients of that. And so they devalue our services. So increase your prices. So you could tomorrow go out and increase your prices 10% and probably not see any change in your customer base. If you increase your prices 30%, this is a scary one, right? You increase your prices 30% and you lose 15% of your clients, you're still more profitable, right? So you're going to cut that lowest, potentially lose that lowest end group of clients that maybe are taking more time and don't value your services, but you're still making more money, which gives you more time to give more value to the clients that really appreciate you. And I don't care what economic cycle you're in, it's okay. It's okay to increase prices. You will not get that knee-jerk pushback. You may have to justify your prices. I actually talked to a client last week about increasing prices on something we're doing for her. And she said, okay, why now? And why that amount?
Right.
Fair question. I said, why now? Because I haven't increased prices for 3 years. I've got to drink my own Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah.
It's time. All my other services in my business have increased exponentially over the last 3 years in terms of cost. I haven't increased this thing. It's time. And secondly, you're still less than 50%. The difference between what you pay now and what you would pay if you came in as a new client, that increase is still less than 50% of that gap. You're
Right.
still paying less than new clients would pay for that thing. She said, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So the moral to the story is just be ready to talk about it, right? Don't be afraid of having that conversation. But the last thing you should do in a recession is cut your prices. I see that far too often. So that's my soapbox about pricing, Ian.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the big thing is, I think the big point that I took away from is don't be afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. Because it is okay. Right. And they're likely is not, your clients are probably having the same conversations amongst themselves as you are right now. So don't be afraid to have that. Don't be afraid to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And I guess one other thing I would add is if you're in an hourly rate environment where you quote by the hour, even if it's a package of hours or whatever, move away from that mindset. But start to think about value-based pricing versus hourly rate-based pricing. Because as soon as you bring up a change in hourly rate, they're going to nitpick the hourly rate, and then they're going to nitpick how many hours you're going to spend. Because, I could be $1 million an hour and it only takes an hour, or I could be $1,000 an hour and it takes 1 million hours, right? Which do you want? Neither of those are good. So, hourly rate and number of hours is always that kind of negotiation point. It can be. So move away from that. Don't quote an hourly rate. Quote a value-based price. And that value has to be based on how your client perceives value. So you have to understand that. And then you could come up with a package pricing or an incremental thing or a monthly fee or whatever. Try and move away from the hours. You may have to use the hours to calculate your number.
Sure.
You don't have to share that with a client.
That's true. Because keep in mind that, when it comes to this, there's never a situation in which the hours that you're actually working for a specific client are the only hours that you're spending on that client, right? I don't care who you are, what you're doing. It doesn't matter if, my favorite thing, I think I may have mentioned this before. I know an artist, and I was dating this girl back in San Diego, and I took her to see a gallery show that he had. And she looked at him and said, so she looked at this piece of art, amazing piece of work that was, size was big and the whole 9 yards. And she looked at it and said it was like $3,500, $4,000, something like that. She said, how long does it take you to do that? And he responded, it took me 25 years to be able to do that in 3 hours. Or whatever the timeline was, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so it's never just the amount of time that you are spending on the thing. It's everything that goes along with it, right? So you're worth a lot more than the hour that you're giving to that client.
Yeah. But yet we always price it based on the hours we're going to spend to do the work.
Right.
We're devaluing ourselves. So remember that,
Yep. That's it. So let's move on to packaging, evaluating packaging, because this goes along with pricing pretty well, right?
Yeah, it does. So when I think about packaging, it's sort of like, how are you going to combine some things together to deliver the maximum value for a client? So it could be you're meeting with them X number of times a month or a week or whatever. You're going to be doing these things. You're responsible for executing on these things. It could be maybe you're responsible for getting certain results. It could be any number of things. Maybe you've got assessments or personality assessments you offer and quizzes or whatever else, training. It could be a lot of different things. What often happens is we sort of break the thing out in the proposal. So, right, it's X amount for this and it's X amount for that and it's X amount for that. I'm working with a client right now. She's an executive coach. She owns a firm that does CEO coaching for big businesses, 50 million, $1 billion business, big organizations. And so she's putting together this package for next year for her client. And she wanted to compare her prices to the competition. Fair, because we know what we're dealing with here, right? And then there were some other things she wanted to add. And the way she packaged it together, it made it seem like her offer was way more expensive. And the reality is, when we break it down, her pricing was actually less expensive when you compare line item to line item.
Right.
Her full package had some extra stuff. And so we evaluated her packaging. And when we looked at it the first time, you're 30% higher. How do you think your prospect's going to react? She said, wow, they're not going to no. But then when we broke the packaging down in a way that made more sense to the consumer, to the prospect, she was a huge value.
Right.
You compare line item to line item, she was less. And then you add the other stuff as a package, it was a no-brainer. Yeah. So she didn't really evaluate how she was packaging this stuff together, what she was offering, and how she was communicating each piece. And I think that there would have been a much harder conversation with the prospect had she not gone through that exercise. So for her, we weren't evaluating adding new things. It was just how she packaged it together. But I think for the folks on the call, what can you add? What can you mix in? Can you work with another strategic partner that has a sort of a synergistic service, and you can package those things together, right? Yeah. And then for the client, it's more value, and then they have a harder time comparing you to the competition because you've got this unique package of stuff. So I think there's an opportunity to get really creative around packaging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that competitive advantage and your inability to be, if you can walk in knowing that you have no competition because you're going to offer, yes, we do all these same things together, but we do this that nobody else does. Right. And it's always that piece where the value lies. Right. And so, yeah, if you can figure out, if you can really dive in on the packaging of that and make it look really powerful, then you're going to be heads above the competition every time.
Yeah. And if you can demonstrate the gap, right, where the competition ends and you fill, it then really becomes a no-brainer.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So creating efficiency. This is, do you mind if I jump on this one a little bit?
Yeah, take this one. That's great.
So efficiency is huge. I've been a one-person show for, I don't even know how long. Of course, I've got a team, a small team now, but the reason that I started Mission Suite in the way that I did was because I needed a force multiplier for myself. I was one person trying to do the job of 15. Right. And so I needed to do more to be able to even do anything. Right. Because otherwise there was no selling happening. There was only support happening. There was only hand holding going on, all that sort of stuff. And so there was nothing going on in the background. And I was that kind of key, that epitome of the consultant's dilemma, right? That, up, work, get a client, and then you don't do anything. And then all of a sudden you have to work back up again, and so it was brutal. So creating those efficiencies and finding things that you're doing over and over and over again in your own business, because there's 9 times out of 10, there's a way to automate something in that, right? And so automation and efficiency, for me anyway, really go hand in hand. Of course, you can hire a team, you can hire people. Right now, in the next 6 to 12 months, people are going to start to become a lot less expensive, right? Yeah. And not to sound callous, but it's the truth, right? I mean, we are going to start seeing people who are willing to do more for less and who are willing to do work in different ways than they would have been before, right? So there is a way, there's an opportunity to create efficiency there, but you're also, losing quite a bit of headspace in training and growing and whatnot. So true efficiency doesn't cost you that. And that's where automation comes in well. And I mean, if I would be happy to have a conversation with anybody watching this to talk about some of the things I'm doing this over and over and over again. How would you, is there anything that you've seen that I can automate? Because it doesn't necessarily mean Mission Suite, doesn't necessarily mean email automation, but Zapier, if this, then that, using templates, like using signatures in Outlook. Just
Yep.
having like 12 signatures created that are full-on emails that with a signature line attached to it, so that you can easily kind of drop something in. Things like that. Those types of efficiencies can go a huge amount of way.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels so daunting to create efficiency in our business. It doesn't. It could be the simplest things, and you hit on it. And we have a bullet point on processes as well. But what are those things you do on a repeatable basis, daily, weekly, monthly? They're usually fairly simple processes or tasks.
Right.
Create a process. We'll touch on that in a minute, but they don't have to be hard. And the other thing about efficiency is evaluate what you do every day, every week, every month, and remove the stuff that you do that's not bringing any value to your world.
Right.
Right. Is there a networking group you go to? Is there a email you read because it's a habit? Is there a thing that you do out of habit that doesn't bring any value? That's inefficiency at its best, right?
Right.
Remove it. Don't do it anymore. Be aware of your habits and remove that stuff.
Yeah. Unsubscribe from the emails, right? I mean, it's not, it doesn't have to be as intense as bringing in the Bobs from Office Space and having them go through everything that you're doing. But, you know, you can literally, like, you know what, if you're married, do this cautiously, but, you know, or have a significant other or whatever, but just sit down with that person and say, okay, I want you to literally listen to everything that I do and ask me why. And if you sense, if your BS meter starts going off, because those people are oftentimes the ones that can sense it. Of course, those people are also the ones that when they call you on it tends to, you know, like send you flying. So maybe find somebody else to do this, depending on your relation, depending on your headspace. But I mean, find that, right? Find somebody that can ask you why. Spend 2 hours, and then, you know, I mean, if you going back to the Office Space metaphor, if you find yourself slamming the desk and screaming, "I am a people person," then that's probably not worthwhile, right?
Probably not. Don't fight it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately just batch your work. I mean, that's an easy efficiency tool, right? Just block time to do the same types of tasks on a regular basis. Don't play whack-a-mole every day with all the stuff that comes at you. Just batch your work. That alone, you can create efficiency in your world.
Exactly. So should we talk a little bit about process, since we're kind of going into that, and then kind of come back to the next one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to lead off, or do you want me to lead off on this?
Yeah, because, you know, what you said kind of made me think about the way that I started working my business a while ago, was especially when I first found out that we were going to have a baby, right? I mean, as you know, this really changes the way you think about things, right? And so I started thinking about the process and the things that I was doing and whatnot. And of course, you know, being an early riser, I work really well in the morning on task-based stuff just to kind of get check boxes, right? So I developed a process where every morning at 5 o'clock, I had these tasks come due, and then, you know, at noon, I had these tasks come due, and I just boom, 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 boom. And then in the morning I was done, and you know, just but developing that kind of process so that you can do these things, because I can promise you an 8-hour day of work can fit into about maybe 45 minutes to an hour if you don't have distractions going on, right? And if you know that your job right now is just to check these 5 boxes, and then you get to have breakfast or whatever it is, right? Those are the things that you can always kind of create process around.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for me, when I think about process, I kind of break it into 2 categories. There's probably more than that, but I think about 2 sets of categories. So like the essential but low value activities, right? Things that, like I said, you do every day, every week, every month. Your billing, for example, or your invoicing is a good example, or getting something out the door for a client every week or every month, or a report like that. As a business owner, you shouldn't be doing those.
Right.
It's a low value for your time, not low value for the business or the recipient, right? But for you and the value you bring to the business, they're low value. And so the next time you do it, just write down the steps.
Yeah.
Open up Loom and video yourself doing the thing.
Yep.
and then have an hourly person do that for you. Go
Yeah.
find a VA. You can get very inexpensive VAs that are super smart and super talented. They just need to be shown what to do. And
Right.
for a few dollars an hour, you just offload an hour, 2 hours or more a day or a week. So
Right.
those low value for your time activities is one category.
Mhm.
The other, in terms of process or activities, is high value activities. You should have 4 or 5 things in your business that you do because it's your magic, right? It's
Right.
your thing. You bring tons of value. Just focus on those. But if there are high value processes you're not getting to, hire a VA to do those as well.
Right.
And here's my example for you. So I just hired another VA for our team, and I've told a few people, I'm like, oh, great. Is this person going to do your email and your calendar? And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no. Those are low value tasks that, all right, maybe it would save me 30 minutes a day. My calendar's like, I don't know if anybody else could handle it, quite honestly. But nonetheless, I've hired her to do stuff that I'm not getting to that is higher value,
Right.
that is going to have an impact on my business and my clients. To me, that's that other category. It's things that I can train her on, and I have done. And she's giving me way more bandwidth because I'm just not getting to them. They're just not getting done.
Right.
So when you think about processes, it's not just about being consistent in what you do, but it's allowing you the opportunity to bring people into your business to help you grow and get out of your own way and have some time away from the business as well. What a concept.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. And, to the point of the VA thing is, the one thing I want to touch on is that, because we talked about for a few bucks an hour, you can hire somebody in the Philippines or in India, whatever. Right. And, I don't know where the number is. I know some people who have taken issue with hiring somebody for $3 an hour, $5 an hour, US dollars. Right. And so I said that, and that's fair. Right. And I get that. One thing, and I don't know where the global economic scale is, right? I mean, I'm still a guy, I still can't pronounce economist right 100% of the time. Like there's still a good, probably 40% of the time that I want to say economist, right? So, or economicist, so yeah, so it's not my world, right? But based on some quick Google searches that I've done in the past, $5 US dollar minimum wage in a place like the Philippines is equivalent to like a $90,000 yearly salary, right? So, and there's a lot that goes into that, don't get me wrong. And I mean, there's of course a lot of ways that we can take this and, kind of a lot big rabbit hole we can fall down here. But I do want to talk about the fact that, just because it's a low dollar for us doesn't mean that it's a low dollar for them, number one, right? And number two, it's something that you are able to, it's a task-based thing that if realistically if you can say this is worth $2 an hour, this is worth $3 an hour, $5 an hour, $10 or whatever, how much I mean, I know that we just did a whole thing about not putting hours on billable time, or not dollars on hours, but think about how much you would bill your time for, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you would bill yourself out for 150, 250 bucks an hour, are you really going to spend your time? Are you really going to charge yourself 250 bucks just to do your invoicing, to go into QuickBooks and hit a few buttons? Probably not.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a smart move. And if you've got strong beliefs on offshoring and not offshoring and this, right. Whatever, right? You do you.
Right.
What will your budget allow for? And what level of complexity are these tasks? And find the person that fits you. I've got a person in my team that's in Venezuela. She is amazing, but I wouldn't give her certain tasks. And I've got a person in the US. She's amazing, and I would only give her certain tasks. And she's obviously more expensive, but she's bringing a level of value that makes sense. So you do you. The point is, do something. Don't get stuck, right? Don't get stuck. You are not the only person in your business that can do the things you do. You may be today, but you shouldn't be, right?
Right, for sure. Because even if you're spending $50 an hour on a VA, which is really expensive, but they're out there, right?
Yeah.
Just do, like you said, just do something, right?
Do something.
So yeah. All right, let's jump back to refining your sales system.
Yeah, sales system, sales process. So for a lot of the folks out there, they sell from an instinctual perspective, from an instinctual place, right? They know their stuff. They've been in sales for a long time, or they've owned a business for a long time, and they've got the gift of gab, whatever, right? They're the expert and they can sell. Well, that's okay to a point. What happens is, unless you have a sales process, a system, your results aren't repeatable. Right? You react to a situation, you hopefully say the right thing at the right time, but you don't get consistent results. So during a recession, during a challenging time, we have to be more effective with every lead that we get. We have to convert more of them on a consistent basis. So think about your sales process, the conversations you have, the steps that you go through, that you guide your prospect through, and refine them. Refine them. I've said it over and over. If you've listened to the community table, you've heard me say this. Modern buyers buy differently.
Right.
Modern meaning buyers today versus even buyers 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So think about that. Think about, be empathetic, be collaborative in your selling, and think about your buyer and document your sales process, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the conversations that you have to have? What are the questions, those sort of transitionary questions that you have to ask to get them to the next step in the conversation?
Right.
Document them, write them down so that you're consistent when you deliver them, versus just winging it. Because this is how I've always sold. I've always done it this way. We've always got those results, right? So if you don't have that sales process documented, now's the time to do it. If you have something already documented, now is the time to review it and update it.
Right, absolutely. And, it's interesting because, okay, so I was talking to a mutual friend of ours about this recently, that, you've got, let's say the market right now is at its best is at 10,000 customers for you and what you do, right? But all you need is 10 every month or every whatever, however often, right? So now in a rough time, maybe that market has gone to 5,000 customers or even 2,500 customers, right? But you still only need 10 of them. You just have to spend more time finding them, right? And kind of focusing on finding them. And that's where the sales process comes in, because if you like refining your sales process, because if you spend the time during your downtime to figure out what's not working, then you can fix it, get rid of it, or address it in some other way, and to work on growth.
Yeah. I would say if there's any part of the sales process that our listeners should focus on first, is discovery.
Right.
That qualifying, I hate saying qualifying because it's like, it's discovery, because I think it's a two-way discovery. They're discovering about you and you're discovering about them. Mm-hmm. So really work on your discovery, because that sets the foundation for the rest of your journey that you go through with the prospect.
Right.
So really work on discovery and develop some new questions, some thought-provoking questions.
Yeah.
And the other thing goes back to process and efficiency is have your assets ready. If you know that somebody always asks for this thing, have the thing ready.
Right. Exactly.
Don't recreate it every single time. Have it ready. Have a template. What a concept, right? So that you can get it out the door. You're not rushing around at midnight the day before for a proposal. Don't do that.
Yeah. And, maybe create some efficiency, automate sending it out to them before they ask for it, so that they already have it and they don't even have to ask you for it.
And it doesn't become an objection, right?
Exactly right. Yeah. All right. So we have 7 points left to cover and 11 minutes before the top of the hour. So
hustle, man.
Exactly. We were hoping not to have to do like the 1 minute per thing, but we're getting close, right? But using technology, and this is something that, we touched on before. Use technology to figure out how to create those efficiencies, how to make yourself more effective, and just deliver better, right? Because again, during a recessionary time, people are always looking for the better thing to do it, to make something work, right? So if they're able to find something better than you, then they're going to leave you. It's not what you want, right? So you should be finding something better than everybody else is using, and find a better way to do it. And technology oftentimes comes around to that.
It does. And so build your processes first, and then find the best technology to enable them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's good automation and good efficiency always starts on a whiteboard or Post-it notes or whatever. Never starts in a computer, never starts in a system.
Yep.
So yeah, it's huge. Next one, using fractional help. Dean, we just kind of touched on this.
Yeah, so fractional help can be interpreted a lot of different ways. So we've talked about like the VA assistant sort of person, but fractional help can also be a fractional director, VP, C-level person, somebody with a ton of experience. So you may pay them $200, $300 or more an hour, but the value you get in that few hours a week or a month is exponentially higher than somebody at a lower rate that isn't there in terms of experience. So consider that there's a fractional everything, right? You can find a fractional whatever role you need. It can be a really high value way to explode your business and accelerate your business at actually a fairly reasonable cost, especially versus hiring an FTE, a full-timer.
Right.
Full-time executive level, director level is going to be expensive. So explore the fractional, especially for those specialty areas of the business, right? It can be really powerful. And it's different to just hiring a part-time person, not better or worse, just different.
Right.
So, don't shy away from that because you think it's maybe out of your budget.
Yeah. And another thing to kind of consider with this, if you find yourself to a point where you have to start making cuts, right, and some of those higher salaries start to look pretty appealing to chop off, bear in mind too that everybody else knows that we're going in a recession too. You're not the only one that doesn't know or that knows that things are getting tight. So, you'd be surprised that, hey, listen, Joe, John, whatever, I know that, we've been doing this really well full time together for a long time. I can't afford you full time right now, right? Would you be willing to pull back, go fractional for the next 12 months or 6 months, and then we reevaluate just to kind of keep engaged in this, really focus the work that you're doing, open you up to doing more things while you still have a little bit of income coming from me too. And we can kind of figure that out. You'd be surprised that right now, again, nobody wants to go and try to find a new job when when they're already excelling at the one that they have, and it just so happens that it's not affordable anymore. You'd be surprised how many people may be willing to say yes to that, but you're never going to know unless you have the conversation.
That's a great advice. Advice.
So, expanding your offer.
Yeah. And we've touched a little on this with the packaging, but for me, expanding your offer is aligning with the needs of your marketplace, right? What are the other things that your existing clients, let's start with that. Yeah. Existing clients, if they have budgets to spend on things that are aligned with what you do and they buy them from somebody else, maybe they could buy them from you.
Right.
Other synergistic services, expanding outside of a little bit of the scope you typically offer. You've got money on the table that you could take advantage of with your existing client base or even recently past clients that they don't think of you for that thing because maybe it's not something you've offered. But if you aligned with a strategic partner or a fractional person or a part-timer that could do that thing, there's revenue opportunity there. And it's an easy sale because they already know, love, and trust you. Yeah. So if you're an accounting firm and you don't offer bookkeeping, no brainer, right? It could be an easy one, right? And I know a lot of accountants don't want to do bookkeeping, but nonetheless. Or if you're a payroll company, you could offer bookkeeping, or you could offer fractional HR advice. If there's all of these sort of synergistic things that maybe in the past you've referred them out. Yeah. Maybe you could consider expanding your offer.
Yeah. And, if you find yourself in a position where you have to do like accounting and bookkeeping, perfect example, right? So let's say you end up with a full roster of bookkeeping clients, right? And then 12 months from now, the economy the ship rights itself again, and you don't need that. Now you can either hire somebody if you want to maintain it, or sell that piece of the business off to somebody who does want to do the bookkeeping, because now you've created an asset based on the customer list that you already have that can be transferable, right? And so, there's all sorts of things that you can do there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yep.
And then, so expanding into new markets. This actually, this is another interesting one because your advice on, just do if your clients are paying somebody else to do something, if you want to get now is a great time to go into a new city, if you can do, all of us now know that we can do our work virtually, right? That's the benefit of
Yep.
the past 2.5 years. We all now know that we can work virtually, right? And if you're saying that you can't, you're probably lying to yourself. Not going to say everybody, but more than likely, right? And so, if maybe you're in Denver and now you see that you want to expand into wherever, some other place, talk to your clients and say, hey, listen, if someone comes to you and asks you for something in San Diego, I'm sure you have somebody in San Diego that you would refer to. Who would that be? Right? Find a foothold and then reach out to that person. Hey, we're so-and-so told me, you guys do work together. I'm doing work for him. This is what I'm doing. This is what I think I can do for you. Would you be interested? Now you've got a foothold in San Diego and you can start growing off of that.
Yeah. I think that's a really, relatively easy approach, right? It's actionable. You can do it very, very quickly. Another way to expand markets is if you've specialized in a particular industry, you're servicing a particular industry. What is that like next sort of tangent industry that's close? That you have enough knowledge that will transfer? Maybe you can start offering your services there, asking your clients. So if your clients work with a particular industry, get them to introduce some owners in that industry.
Right.
It's amazing how quickly you can expand into new verticals.
Yeah, incredibly easily. Next thing is keep an eye on your competitors. You want to touch on this?
Yeah. So this is not necessarily from what are they doing? What am I missing? Are they coming after my clients? Because I really don't subscribe to like that in terms of competitors. Right. But what I do look at is, are they losing clients? What's their reputation in the marketplace? Are they contracting? Maybe it creates opportunity for us. And you know what? Sometimes your competitors can be your best allies in growing during a recession, right? So if you've got a friendly competitor in the market and you sort of like there's an alignment there, have a conversation. Maybe you can team up and do something together, right? This is not just about this like fear and angst of like, oh, are they taking my clients? Don't even worry about that, right? If you're doing great work, don't even worry about that. Right. So think about your competition in a very different way.
Absolutely. And then on the flip side of that is also keep an eye on their customers.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's it. Because again, to your point, if they're doing something or if they're changing their service model or, so the way that they kind of sell their stuff or provide their services, then that does open up opportunity for you to go to their customers and say, hey, listen, we're still doing it this way. That's what you signed on for in the first place. So I kind of get the sense that you'll probably like it. So let's have a conversation.
Oh, yeah. All day long. I think that's a great one. And we like to talk about our clients and we drop the references and the testimonials. Do a little research. Yeah. Go poke around a little bit.
That's it. And finally, and I'm impressed by us here. Keep talking to your customers.
Yeah.
Keep talking to your customers, right?
I think that's huge. For me, my customers are one of the key sources of the most valued information.
Yeah.
What are they experiencing, number one, and how can I help? That's part of it. But also, what are their customers hearing? And how are your clients' needs changing? What's going on? How can you add value? How can you make introductions? Keep that dialogue going, because the last thing you would ever want to have happen is get fired and you didn't know it was coming.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
Because you weren't doing something.
Right. That's it. And talking to your customers helps you to create, because your competitors are going to be keeping an eye on your customers too, right? So talking to your customers helps to create that kind of fence around them, right? It helps create those hedges that make it a little bit easier to hang on to them.
It does. And there's another sort of level to this that maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but get your customers talking together. Yeah. Create a community of customers so they're supporting each other and you're at the center of that community too. That creates stickiness and it creates references and it creates inbound leads and all that kind of stuff too. So don't just stay in touch with them. Just be intentional about spending time talking to them, not just about your engagement and your relationship from a business to business standpoint, but figure out what's going on in the world. I think it can be really valuable.
That's it. Awesome. Well, we are at the hour. We hit 15 topics, and there was a while there that I was worried that we were going to make it, but we did it, right?
We made it. We got through it. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Obviously, this video is going to be available. We'll post it up on YouTube, and Ian will distribute it like he always does. But if you have questions or you want to dig into any of these topics, reach out to us. We're always available.
Absolutely. And clearly we like to talk. So, you know, I mean,
Apparently so, right?
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today. I'm glad. I hope that you got something out of it. I know I got something. I got some ideas out of it that I got to act on now. And so we appreciate you being here, and we will keep an eye out for next month's session, and we'll see you next time around. All right. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.